buddies, you look to your friends.
There's only a couple guys in the whole world that make me love pro wrestling, and you're one of them.
You know, all the bad shit you heard about us, it's all true. But another thing that's true is we love professional wrestling, and that's why we're here. I'm not sports entertainment anymore.
Talk to him, kid.
This is a new beginning, and it starts tonight.
A new day is dawning for DX.
Know who you're talking to?
Welcome everybody to X-Pac 12360. Yeah. Allow myself to introduce myself. I am X-Pac, Sean Waltman, your host. That was my Austin Powers. Some people probably didn't get that, but I don't care. Anyways, okay, Jimbo, moving on up.
Yeah, man.
Next to me here at the table.
I'm off the couch. I'm on the panel now. Hello,
and
everybody.
moving on inside, we have Anissa.
Yes,
on
welcome,
the
Anissa.
couch.
Hi. How are
Mark, you're still in the booth.
That's me in the booth.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Had a great weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, you were there.
Yeah, we were all there, actually. We were all at
Friday.
Pacific Coast Wrestling on Friday to watch MVP versus RVD.
Yeah.
Saw Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah. Great to see Kevin. I sat and talked to Kevin for hours.
Yeah, it was amazing to me to just be backstage and see you, Kevin Sullivan, RVD, and MVP all just powwowing. How cool that was.
Yeah, it was.
And earlier in the day to see Kevin Sullivan going over matches with people and how like amazing that is.
Yeah. And it was, I'll tell you a real quick story about that because the guy that owns the company, or the promoter, Joey.
Yeah. Sheik.
Almighty Sheik, sorry. Known for a long time, hadn't seen him in forever, and he actually sent me a text earlier in the week and, invited me out to the show. So I was happy to accept because I wanted to see, MVP's a really good friend of mine, and I love Kevin Sullivan, from the time I grew up watching him as the Devil.
Yeah.
And then getting to work with him as the booker in WCW for most of the NWO stuff. So, every time I get a chance to sit down and bullshit with Kevin, it's amazing for me.
Yeah.
And Kevin, they came up to me, Joey and I forget who else, and they were telling me, "Geez, should John Morrison come out before the match starts or after the match finishes to challenge the winner?"
Mm-hmm.
And my initial react, they were asking me, they said, because Kevin thinks they should do it beforehand. And anyways, I don't want to I'm already saying too much of the story, but my initial response was opposite of Sullivan's, and that's what happens sometimes when somebody asks you a serious question and you try to answer it too quick without sitting and thinking about it. After I sat and thought about it, Kevin Sullivan was 100% right in how John Morrison came out before the match started, and it worked out much better.
Yeah.
To talk about how he was going to be the challenger for the PCW title against Rob Van Dam at the next show.
Yeah. I think it really helped sell tickets for the next show. Because everyone's waiting for this main event. They don't know where it's going next. And then John Morrison's music hits, and everyone's like, whoa, what other surprises is this company going to throw at us?
And Kevin's thought process was a couple of things. Sending him out before makes those guys work harder. And it does. It wouldn't me anyhow. And it did those guys because they had a really good match. Plus, some people might leave because the shows go on a long time, and even though a match could be really good, main event, some people are going to leave.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and Kevin was just concerned that maybe, that might happen, and not everyone will see the Morrison stuff. So, anyways, it worked out great, and there was some really good stuff on the show. The ring ropes broke though.
Was it the second match? Willie Mack and Keith Lee.
There was a bottom one.
No, it was the second one, and they actually
the middle rope broke, and then they take the bottom one and put it where the second one is.
Maybe that's
Yeah, that ring crew didn't have a spare rope. Note to ring crew.
Yes.
Always have a spare rope.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You always have to keep in mind that something like that can happen, because that could have ruined the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Look what happened at PWG when the ring broke.
Yeah, and that took like an hour to fix.
and then even after that,
it drains everyone's energy out.
God, So talk about who else was on the show, because I'm having a
Flip Gordon, who I had never seen before, but I heard of. He was really good. Pentagon, Phoenix.
They had Pentagon and Phoenix go on first and second.
Yeah.
Because they had to go to, I want to say they were going to Peru or something.
Really?
They had a plane to catch.
Because it was supposed to be Willie on first, and then they switched some matches around.
Right.
Extreme Tiger.
Yes.
Did you work with him in
Oh,
Mexico?
yeah, I've known him for years from AAA. Yep.
Yeah. Los Luchas. Brody King, who's a Southern California guy that's starting to get...
I like Brody.
Yeah, you were like, who's that guy that looks like Tommy Ent?
Yeah, I already know. Like, I knew him from
Santino's?
Championship Wrestling from
Hollywood.
And he had these crazy trunks on that were like all this crazy pattern, and I'm like, dude, your like crazy trunks are on your body, dude. He's tatted from head to toe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, just wear black trunks.
Ah.
You know, it looks crazy wearing something other than black trunks.
Yeah, I've had a chance to watch Brody King work at the Wrestle Center, the training center for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. He is something else. He's great.
I think he's really good. I mean, he has, he's still green but I mean, he's doing well for how long he's been doing it, and I like his look. He's one of the better guys around. Who else was on the show?
Sammy Callahan was there and taught a
Always.
seminar prior to the show. That was really good.
Always like Sammy. Yeah.
He had some great advice passed along. And it was cool because he had all the students come in for the seminar, and he asked them what they wanted to learn and what they wanted to do. He's like, you guys paid your money. I'll go put on my gear, and we could wrestle if that's what you want to do. But you all have trainers out here, and you all go to wrestling school out here. Take my knowledge and take this advantage of me being here to share my knowledge with you, and just ask questions and learn from me, which is really good.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I've only done like two what you would call anything like a seminar. One was for the the hooligans in in the UK.
Okay.
And the other was at the Monster Factory in New Jersey.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, Matt Riddle was there. We talked about it. And it was just a tape study where I had a projector and just, had projecting matches against the wall. And I would just pick them apart. And that's, don't be silly. You don't bring guys in like that and just to have them show you how to do a tackle, drop down, hip toss. Mm-hmm. It's just silly. So good for Sammy.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. PCW is doing great things. They have a really good foundation, and that they can only build on top of that, which is great.
Yeah. What else is going on, Jimbo?
Well, we got some news. If you want to get into some news,
X-Pac 12360 Wrestling News.
Okay, so with WrestleMania approaching this weekend, the WWE tweeted about a prior WrestleMania match between Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy from WrestleMania 25, with the tweet saying, "You better believe tables were broken," in all caps, in the battle between the Hardy Boys at the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. This tweet, a lot of people think are teasing the Hardys' return to the WWE, especially when Matt Hardy quoted it and replied, "Did someone say broken?"
Of course, people are going to run with something like this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is proof something's going on. They're going to... No, it's not. Not saying that's not going to happen, but that's not proof of it in any way, shape, or form. Haven't you seen them do stuff like this before?
Yeah.
Come on. So, I would not let this be any kind of an indication one way or another.
In all honesty, I think if the Hardys are going to show up, they're going to show up on Raw and not on Mania.
Of course.
Because, the reset button of, WrestleMania ends and now Raw the next night starts the whole next year,
Well,
I think that's when they break them out.
Maybe they could do SmackDown, too. Because SmackDown is where they were very
here's the
popular.
thing.
They were both forth.
WrestleMania. That's it. That's the end all be all. That's New Year's Eve. Okay? Yeah. And Raw the next day, that's New Year's Day.
Yeah.
That's when the New Year starts. And that's when you bring everyone in. And I mean, SmackDown now is running fairly even with Raw, in my opinion. So I mean, they might want to spread it out as far as the guys they actually bring in and introduce. So I don't know. it's just, yeah, you're right. It's either going to be Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah. Another kind of WrestleMania news. Sheamus last night on Raw setting up for this tag team turmoil ladder match that'll happen at Mania. Took a ladder to the face and gashed above his eye open pretty deep. It was gnarly. It took 16 stitches to close this. We had to blur it out because it was pretty graphic.
Why are we video distorting the...
It was graphic, and Mark thought that we should probably blur it out for our
Sean,
viewers.
it's the one up top where they're cleaning it out, they have it like gaping open.
Yeah.
It's really gross.
Bad.
Does it look like
Yeah.
a big vagina?
Yeah, kind of.
I don't mean to laugh but I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to be
just
okay,
fine.
stitched up.
Is this going to affect his WrestleMania?
I don't think so, and I'm sure he'll be a little bit more careful during that match because when you wrestle with stitches, all it takes is like one small thing to reopen them, right?
Really easy.
Yeah.
And these days, if somebody starts bleeding, usually they stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Well, at least it's nothing serious.
Yeah, and it happened in Philadelphia, so Tommy Dreamer tweeted like, you got your color in Philly, kid. You're hardcore, which is funny. That's about it for news.
Is
we
it
have,
really?
it's not really news, but we were going to talk about this amazing picture you posted of what crazy shape you're in your abs, your 8-pack you got working on.
It's just good lighting.
And so there's Sean physically and mentally in the best shape of his life, which you could see. And the replies to this were amazing. All Sean's friends, from Kevin Nash to Scott Hall, Jim Ross, the Hardys. So many people were so proud of you and how far you've come and are really happy at the position you're in right now.
Yeah. I don't like talking about stuff like this. I am proud of where I am now compared to where I was not that long ago. I'm very grateful. This is the thing is I have been in this kind of shape more or less for a little bit now.
Yeah.
So it's not like all of a sudden just overnight. I mean,
No.
It took me a while to get it didn't happen overnight.
Well, from hanging out with you personally, I've noticed your diet is insane.
Yeah.
So other than your dieting, what are you doing to keep this shape?
Well, I have to tell you, it's mainly diet, and the bulletproof diet is excellent, which is basically it's a paleo diet, but it's even a little it's a little bit different. It's even more. How the f do I say this? Anyways, read the book.
Yeah.
Bulletproof diet. It's great.
Well, what I wanted to ask you, Sean, is what do you think of Matt Hardy's nickname for you, the Kid of 1, 2, 3s?
I love it. I love it. I God bless the 7 deities. Who are the 7 deities?
Those are the people that give Matt his powers.
No, I know, but can we name them?
I couldn't.
Probably not. I wonder if he can.
Well, I think it's like a Shazam situation where if he says it, they'll take away all of his power.
No, I'm blown away that Jim Ross took the time to, But what's he gonna do? Like, he can't just sit and.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week, and Jan Hatton, she was still, I think she was going through surgery at the time. I don't want to be a downer, but come on, I have to
take a
just
moment.
tell Jim Ross that everyone loves you, Jim, and let's just move on on that. I love you, Jim, and
our condolences
rest in peace,
to
Jan. And she was an
your family.
organ donor, and people's lives are saved because Jan Ross was an organ donor. So please, you're not going to be doing anything with them when you're dead anyway. Like, okay, donate your organs, please, unless you have some sort of religious beliefs that stop you from doing that. And I respect all that. Otherwise, come on, save some lives, please.
Well, on that note, you can go on iTunes, download, rate, and subscribe. If you're watching us on iTunes, give us a like, thumbs up. Be sure to comment, buy our shirts at Pro Wrestling Tees at Sean Waltman's store, the X-Pac 12360 shirts, and we're going to be back with MVP.
Yeah, we didn't even tell you that we have MVP as our guest this week because come by the seat of our pants.
We're working through this.
All right, we'll be right back, everyone, with MVP.
What's up, party people? Roxy Stryer here from The Tomorrow Show with Keven Undergaro. We're your twice-weekly broadcast of one man's midlife crisis and the mad millennials in Star Trek uniforms that follow him.
And I'm one of those millennials, Lauren Magrasso here. We've had some amazing guests like Russell Simmons, Ileana Douglas, and Craig Gass. Coolio, right?
Christian Blatt in the house to tell you to go to thetomorrowshow.com to check us out. We're live every Monday and Thursday from 10 to midnight Eastern. That's thetomorrowshow.com. Be there or be square, whatever that means.
Welcome back to X-Pac 12360. Joining us now, a good friend of mine. Been wanting to get him on the show for a while now. Wanting to go on his show too. He has a podcast called The VIP Lounge. Former U.S. heavyweight champion, former
tag champion.
Yeah, that. But I was going to say New Japan Pro Wrestling Intercontinental Champion.
The first ever.
That's it. The Ronin MVP. What's up, my friend?
Oh man, this is way past due, man. Way overdue. I was supposed to be on your show a long time ago, and you were supposed to have been on mine for a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I came on. We did a little bit of stuff when I was up in the Bay Area with you.
Yeah,
Remember
we
that?
had that little group chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you are a legend in the industry, and well, without question, one of the guys that really helped propel the Attitude Era. So you need more than a group session for 2 minutes. You need your own full episode, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Hey, do you remember the first time we met?
The very first time we met was in Mexico City.
That's right. Yeah.
Nightclub.
Yeah, I can't remember what nightclub it was, but I just remember I had heard from other friends of mine, whether it was Conan or Rey Mysterio, guys like that you were, one of the good guys, and yeah, you know what I mean, and one of us. So it was we hit it off right away, man. And
that was funny because I can't remember who it was, but I want to say it was R-Truth was telling me the same thing. That oh man, you guys are gonna hit it off right away, man. Watch you, and like sure enough, we did, man.
Oh yeah, and I want to say Brian Kendrick was there, Spanky, Jack Swagger. It was a good crew that night.
Can I tell the story about what we were doing in the club, fucking with the security? Is that allowed?
Yeah, please do. Yeah. I mean, this is the past. I'm pretty far away from that Sean Waltman these days, so I ain't afraid to talk about anything.
Well, even before I tell the story, dude, I got to take my hat off to you for overcoming all the obstacles that you had. You look fucking phenomenal.
Oh, thanks, man.
And to know where you've been, to see where you are, dude, I could not be prouder of you. I could not be happier for you, man. So just one foot in front of the other. Keep it moving, baby.
You got it, man. Hey, you get sick and tired of living like that eventually, man. I wasn't going to die, so I had to change something. Anyways.
Well, what's the saying? You got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Amen, man.
So anyway, one night we're in Mexico City. First night we met.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the name of the nightclub either, but I remember we had some nice little spot near a table, and we were hanging out, having a great time. And you broke out the pipe with some weed.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Give me that motherfucker! I'll spark it." And we were very clandestinely smoking weed in the club. And it's funny because the security, you see them sniffing, and you see them on their headphones trying to make their way through the crowd to root it out. They're trying to find it. And a couple times they were standing right by us. And I can't remember, honestly, because we drank a lot that night, too. I can't remember if it was you or if it was me. But because I remember the pipe was between our hands. And one of us, as the security guy went by, just real, stealthily blew a whole plume of smoke right at the back of his head.
Yeah.
I remember that happening. I just can't remember which one of us did it at that point.
Well, yeah, because I was living in Mexico at the time, so that was that was my home base. and so I knew, I was pretty familiar with the lay of the land down there. And wow, talk about the Wild West, man.
You were down there for a while.
4 years. 4 years I was down there. Yeah.
No mama sway.
No mommy sway.
No mama sway.
Oh, man.
That's a long time. And to be in Mexico City, a gringo in Mexico City.
Yeah. Hey, so, we never knew each other before that, but we come from similar roots, like as far as you're kind of a Malenko guy in a way, aren't you?
Dude, I've said in the past that, being from Miami, Florida, all of the guys who came up in the South Florida wrestling scene are bastard children of the Malenkos.
Yeah, they are.
Because you weren't trained by a Malenko, you were trained by someone who was trained by a Malenko.
Yeah.
And, and that was the group that I came up with. And as a matter of fact, Dave Johnson, who for a while wrestled with Tom Nash as the Black Hearts, he wrestled later on as the Black Heart. And I'll never forget.
I started with Dave Johnson, actually.
Right. Or not. He was. I'm gonna tell you. We were at a Fridays one night after an indie show, and me and my brother were joking around. And Dave Johnson said to my brother, "Hey, you better be nice to him. He's gonna be a big star one day. You'll see." He said, "I've only had this feeling about one other person. I've only said this one other time in my life, and it was a skinny kid, this referee kid that used to go to Malenko's. His name was Sean, and he went on to be the 1, 2, 3 kid, X-Pac." And I thought, oh, fuck, I'm in good company, man.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I've heard the story now a few times, but I wanted it was cool for you to. I get funny, man, when people put me over, in public. I know, people might not think that I'm like that, but I don't know. I just feel funny about that kind of thing. So I'm trying to get used to it, man.
Because it happens a lot.
Yeah, well, when you're a legend, that shit kind of happens.
No,
so,
stop.
Oh, shucks. You kicking it and dust on the floor with you.
So,
Willikers.
But, hey, but Dave Johnson, a lot for people that don't know, and a lot of people don't, he started wrestling after he got out of prison. And is that kind of how you guys gravitated toward each other? Because you had a little something in common?
That's exactly how me and Dave hit it off. The wrestling school that I used to train at had been shut down, and for a while, Rusty Brooks had the only wrestling school in South Florida.
Oh yeah.
So they made a deal where we could go over to Rusty's and pay him a weekly, like a gym fee kind of to train in his ring.
Sure.
And one night I was with Dave Johnson and the Market Crashers, and we went to Denny's to eat after training. And I just really started hanging out with these dudes. I didn't really know them that well yet.
Hey,
and
one of the Market Crashers is Almighty Sheik, right?
Yes,
okay.
yes, of PCW. Yeah, he was NASDAQ back then. Joey Machete.
I can't wait to bring that up to the next show.
Yeah, you got to have him on.
Oh
He
yeah,
got
I
some
will.
stories for you. But anyway, we were sitting in Denny's, and Dave made a joke about prison, that you had to have been in prison to get the joke.
Right.
And I started laughing, and Dave said, "All right, motherfucker, where were you?" Because and I said, "Oh yeah, I was here." And for whatever reason, Dave just chose to kind of take me under his wing, because he said he remembered clearly when he got out of prison, wrestling saved his life. And I have to say it did the same for me, because if I hadn't gotten into pro wrestling and developed such a passion and laser beam focus on being successful in it, there's a very strong chance I would have been back in the streets hustling, and that leads to death, whether it's in a cell or on the street. Either way.
Right. Well, what made you that way, that you were able to focus razor sharply on this? Was it just the fact that so much of your time had already been spent locked up, and you had a lot of time to? I don't know. I'm trying. I guess I'm answering a question I should be asking.
Well, it's weird. Yeah, you have a sense of wasted years.
Right.
I mean, I tried to take. I spent 9.5 years in the Florida Department correspondence courses. I had a voracious appetite for books. I wrote articles for zines and shit. I did everything I could to stimulate my mind as much as possible.
Right.
On game, and they said, "Hey kid, don't serve the time. Make the time serve you." And that's the problem with our modern correction system today. It's just warehousing. There's no sense of actual correction.
Right.
And now that you have privatized correction,
Don't get me started.
Okay, yeah, that's another path we can go down. But my point is, when I got out, I was at work release. I met a correctional officer. It was a primetime Daryl D, my man.
Yeah.
And he used to bring videotapes of indie shows or pay-per-views to the work release center for us to watch in the morning, like right before we went out to go to work. So man, how you guys really do that shit without breaking each other's necks, man? And he said, well, I'm going to start my own independent promotions. I see you out there playing basketball. You're pretty athletic. If you want to learn, I'll teach you. I said, all right, shit, hell yeah, let's do that. And a few months after I got out, he called me, asked me if I still wanted to train. I said, yeah. And my training started in a ring in his sister's backyard. And it was something that I just took to really quick. I mean, I grew up in Miami, so I was always watching Gordon Soley and Florida Championship Wrestling. And it was just something we did. Every Sunday afternoon, me and my cousin Corey were putting each other in the figure 4 leg lock and giving bionic elbows. So I got acclimated to pro wrestling very quickly. And I remember one day, Rocky Johnson used to come around and train with us, and we went to Monday Night Raw, and I was with Soul Man Alex G, my first trainer actually, and I was standing on the side of the stage in the entrance and the pyro, and I heard the buzz of the people, and I was overwhelmed, and I looked at Alex G and I said, "This is it, man. This is what I'm." And he said, "You got all the tools, you can do it." And I said, all right. So at that point, it was just, I guess maybe a failure, a knowledge that if I didn't succeed in this, years ago I read this article about this kid who went to film school and said that his backup plan was that he didn't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
And that kid went on to become a famous director.
Yeah, that was my plan. That was my plan.
So yeah, that's where I was at. I was like, man, fuck this bouncing shit, fuck this nightclub security shit, this strip club security. I mean, it was decent money, but there's more. There's a whole globe out there. And if somebody's gonna pay me to play fight in spandex and see the world, man, count me in.
Hey, when you were bouncing, didn't you bounce with Kimbo?
Yeah, that was my first job on South Beach at the living room. Kimbo was the first guy I walked up, and I saw him, and a lot different then too though. But I walked up, and I'm like, "Hey man, you guys hiring?" And he said, "Hold on, let me check." And I heard him. We got on the radio, and there's a big dude out here looking for work, man. We could probably use him. Then the head guy came out, said, "Yeah, come back tomorrow night in the black suit," and yada yada yada. And me and Kimbo, every now and again, we had a little business out there.
Oh, nice.
How was he? Was he a good, cool dude? Kimbo?
Sweetheart of a human being, man. He was a sweetheart of a human being. Like, he was really, really laid back and easygoing. The only time, he ever got physical with anybody is if you got really stepped out of line and had it coming. But otherwise, he was just a really laid back guy, man. A father, a loving father, real proud of his kids. I'll tell you a quick Kimbo story that's pretty funny. He and I, at this time, were like both assistant heads of security, and I think Wayne was head of security, and Wayne had fucked off, and it was just me and Kimbo, and I just locked the doors, and I'm getting ready to do the evening meeting and recover the radio, and the police come banging on the door. Now there's and right about the entrance doors and the exit doors, and in this club there's all kind of trees and plants and shit. So I open the door, and there's a cop who we knew who worked with us, like as the off-duty shit, John, and he says, "Hey man, which one of your guys hit this guy?" And there's a guy standing on the street holding his face with his eyes swollen, and he points at me and he goes, "That's him. That's the one that hit me. That's the one." And John looks at me and hey man, did you? I said, dude, I've never seen that dude before in my life, man. I have no idea. And John tilts his head and goes, come on, Hoss. I'm like, dude, I swear to you, man, I haven't even been on the sidewalk. I was just about to do the meeting. And then I'm probably about a foot inside the door, and I look to my left, and then I see from behind one of the trees, Kimbo pokes his head out. Gives me the old shh. I'm like, how hard did Kimbo punch this dude? But I hit him. Like, I know, we all look alike, but me and Kimbo don't look
Not
that
at all.
much alike.
No. No, you don't. It's on. Damn, man.
So were you surprised to see him become like an internet fight sensation and go on to UFC and fighting for like professionally?
Well, the surprise was when the DVD first started making its rounds of the backyard fighting. The guy who he fought in that video was well known, like down south. People are afraid of down in South Dayton, and like in the county jail, I heard he was like one of the tough housemen, and he got respect. And that video made its rounds, and Kimbo made quick work of him, and like a warm knife through butter, fucked his eye up. And everyone I hear people talking about this Kimbo Slice. So my homie goes, yo, have you seen that Kimbo Slice DVD yet? I'm like, nah, man. So I popped the shit in and I watched him like, man, that's Kevin, man.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's Kevin Ferguson, Big Bird. So he had reinvented himself as Kimbo Slice. And we ran into each other a few times, out on the beach. And at the time, I hadn't been signed yet, but I was doing a lot of indie stuff that was getting TV time in Florida on cable and whatnot. So, we were both really happy for each other that, opportunities were presenting themselves. And, I'm seeing him on DVDs and he's seeing me on TV. And then, fast forward a little bit more, I'm in WWE and, he's on the Ultimate Fighter and the Elite Extreme promotion. And, and every time, whenever I could, if I was in the vicinity or sometimes I'd take a trip, I'd go to his fights and we'd hang out and shoot the shit. And we were both very happy for one another's success.
Oh,
That's
right
so
on,
awesome, man.
Hey, when we had Gangrel on the show, he talked about how you were in jail with his brother.
Yeah, we were at work release together.
Yeah.
Where I met the officer who started my wrestling. His brother, Chris. Me and Chris were talking. He's like, yeah, man, my brother's in the WWF. I'm like, no shit. He goes, yeah, man, that's pretty cool, man. And, talked about his brother briefly, and then, not too long after that, I discovered that his brother was the Vampire Warrior. I'm like, oh shit, that's his brother. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I started with him as well. So it's funny, like we do seem kind of like related, kind of, and it is wrestling kind of incestuous, man. Like people are. I don't mean I'm trying to look. I don't mean it in like people banging their sister or something like that. That's not, what I mean.
Like
though,
parallel.
Right? Yeah, it's just, there's so many different, or maybe I should put it like that
6 degrees.
6 degrees of
separation.
Kevin Bacon.
6 degrees of separation.
Whatever, man. I'm screwing shit up left and right today. Fuck it.
It's all
but
I get
what I
your
mean.
point, though. There's intersecting lines in the pro wrestling lineage. I train with this guy, this guy trained that guy, this guy trained him, who trained me, and so forth and so on. So, you're on point, man, because, we just in this circle of conversation, you and Dave trained together with Dave Johnson, who was a mentor to me under the Malenko.
And they were both Blackhearts at different times.
And Blackheart,
That's
and
right.
Gangrel was one of the
Blackheart
Blackhearts.
as well. He was a Blackheart before Dave was.
That's
Dave
right.
Johnson took Dave Heath's place when Dave Heath left the team of the Blackhearts.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting story that I talked to Gangrel about like a little bit on the show that we won't get into here. But hey, so
I'll tell you what though, man. Here's a hell of a story. When Dave Johnson took the role of the second Blackheart, one day after an indie show, I remember we were in my truck, we were smoking a joint, we were just recapping the night and shooting the shit, and there was this one kid on the show who they went to chop him a couple times, and you know how you kind of turn and put up the shoulder to block the chop. So Dave kind of snapped and wore his ass out with a chair. And the promoter, who was actually hot for the kid, got mad and cussed Dave out, and Dave went off on him and, gave him a blunt. It was big to do.
Yeah.
And Dave was explaining to me, he said, listen, man, he said, if that kid got signed and he went up to WWE, do you think that, he said, you think Test would be nice to him? So do you think that, oh God, what's brother that came over with the, with Benoit and Guerrero and Malenko?
Saturn.
Perry Saturn, yeah. Do you think Perry Saturn's going to be nice to him? See, that's not how this shit works. This isn't about being nice to people. You got to be a man in this business and hold your own. So Dave proceeded to tell me the story about when he was tagging with Tom Nash in All Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Nash apparently had a shit ton of heat for being a dick. And they had to take on Spivey and Hansen.
Yep.
And Dave said he knew some shit was fucked up because Nash told him, hey, no matter what happens tonight, don't complain. No matter what happens, don't say shit. Don't complain. And Dave's like, what the fuck's going on? Dave gave me this fucking VHS tape, this grainy, probably fourth generation VHS tape of him and Tom Nash against Hansen and Spivey. And Dave was lucky because right at the beginning of the match, he took a lariat to the face from Hansen and got knocked out. Hansen went after Tom Nash, and you know how the Japanese barricades are in Japan with like heavy, low steel?
Yes.
He put fucking Tom Nash's head in the gate and started slamming it, started football kicking him in the head. And you know how the Blackhearts wore those sheer, like, stocking masks where they had no face?
Yeah, you couldn't see out of them.
They could see out, but you couldn't see in, like a fucking
pantyhose
or something. They were black. Dude, like a cartoon, you could see the bloody lumps rising up out of Tom Nash's head from the, even through this grainy VHS tape. He beat the fuck out of him. And Dave said, hey man, that's the generation of wrestling that I come from. And that's why I'm not soft on these guys. I'm not particularly nice to these guys. Like, everybody's not supposed to be in this. Everybody's not supposed to do this. And,
this is true.
That mentality doesn't exist so much anymore. Like, business has evolved so much. But there was a time, and the guys that brought you in and brought me in, and we came from the era of guys that fiercely protected the business.
Yes. Yep.
And that was my story about Tom Nash and Dave Johnson. And later on, when I was in Japan, one day I actually brought Stan Hansen over for a Tokyo Dome show, and I was talking to him, and I asked him about it, and he actually remembered that event, but Tom Nash had done to spark his wrath. And he said, all these years later, he felt bad about it. Thinking back, he was, oh man, yeah, that was a different time. But
yeah,
I say it was a great lesson for me.
If we, we could look back on a lot of things like that, and we would feel bad for quite a bit of it, man. But I mean, that's just the way it was at the time. I'm not trying to make excuses because there's a lot of things that I look back on and wish I wouldn't have done. I'm not going to say I have a ton of regrets, but just, probably it wasn't the right thing to do, but it's just the way we were then, man. And I don't know what the fuck are you going to do about it.
Are you glad wrestling's not?
Part of me is there are some things I'm glad have changed, but like you just said, there's a lot of the people in wrestling now, they're just coddled and babied, and it's just a different mentality, man. And
I think what's weird is like, I'll give you the example of The Miz. Very successful, very talented, has reached the highest heights, and I have the utmost respect for him because when we were in developmental down at Deep South, you had guys that had been around and been a few places who were bitching and moaning and complaining about the training. I never heard Mike Mizanin bitch or complain, not fucking once, ever. He fucking ran the miles and did the squats and took the bumps and never bitched about anything.
And they were way harder on him than they are on from what I gather, on your average person, just because he came in from the real world MTV shit.
And his personality didn't do him any favors either. But the point that I was going to make is, here's a guy who will tell you from his mouth that he has never been in a fight in his life. in his entire life. He's never been in a fist fight. And once upon a time in the business of pro wrestling, that was unheard of.
Exactly.
Like, how the fuck you gonna go out there and simulate combat and you've never been in combat? You've never been punched in the face. So how the fuck do you know how to act when you get punched in the face?
Well, you know, Dan Severn never been in a street fight. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You know, Dan Severn was never in a street fight before he went to UFC. True story.
But he had combat experience.
Well, yeah, with the wrestling.
How many thousands of hours did he have on the mat?
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just saying. It's sometimes you hear things like that. You know.
You're like that.
But back to Miz. I'm sorry.
No, but that it wasn't Miz as much as the evolution of the industry. Yeah. Like, you have guys in the business now that that are pro wrestlers and perform and they've learned how to do the moves and do the business and whatnot, but they've never been in a fight. And as a guy who has had his ass whooped more times than most people have had fights, I find that fascinating, seeing the evolution of the industry. Where once upon a time, if you were a pro wrestler, at some point you've traded fists with somebody somewhere along the way, because you couldn't be in the business if you hadn't. And you say everybody fights, right? Not even in the schoolyard. You never had nothing, never. Oh shit, okay. But I'll say this too, like, from when I came into WWE, the full corporatization, or as I like to say, the Disneyfication of WWE hadn't completely kicked in yet. So I came and saw like the end of the old way and the beginning of the new way. And I saw, when the veterans would rib the rookies and, kick them out of the locker room and, fuck around with guys and whatnot. I watched it. And one of the things that I saw, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but, the guys that got bullied because they allowed themselves to be bullied.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about that shit because, hey, man, I respect you. You respect me. I'm a grown-ass man. You come at me wrong. I understand this whole locker room shit and, the veterans and the hierarchy, and I'm game. I respect that to a point. But, you ain't going to try me like I'm some kind of a bitch-made dude. You know what I'm saying? That's just not how I roll. And, the guys who complained about being bullied got bullied because they didn't punch a bitch in the face. Like, nah, man, you can't talk to me like that. Let's step out here and handle this shit. Take the ass whooping. But it's not like that anymore, because now, especially WWE, it's a corporatized atmosphere. So, somebody WWE for a hostile workplace.
That's
and
right.
Sue you and then press charges for assault.
I asked somebody, I can't remember who it was, about, who was it? Zach Gowen. I'm like, did you get ribbed when you were, like, who? You had to have, because he had so much heat, right? He said, no, I had so much heat, nobody would even rib me.
Damn.
Because, man,
that's another thing. That's the fucking ribbing in the industry of pro wrestling. Some of that shit, like, I've heard about some of the ribs you've been involved in. Yeah. I'm like,
not proud of them.
If you shaved off my eyebrow, I'm going to bust your fucking head open. Man.
I imagine.
I got to go on TV with no eyebrows. Like, nah, dude, that's not funny. That's funny to you, but physically, you like, nah, dog. Or you hear some of those legendary Mr. Fuji fucking ribs. Like, that's not a rib. That shit ain't funny. Now you stepped way over the line at that point.
Actually, like the one I heard was like that he
you fed someone their dog.
Yeah, man. If you fucking kill my dog, I'm killing you. I'm
fucking John Wick.
You're dead. Bottom line, I don't care who has a problem with me just saying that. Fuck with my dog. See what happens.
Leave the gooch alone.
Over the years. Well, yeah, right. I wonder how many over the years, though, how much that's been exaggerated or mythologized.
Yes.
But still, just the point, fucking, shitting in somebody's bag and
sure.
Some of the things you hear, hey, this guy's drunk, he's passed out. Or this is the kind of shit that, like I said, would certainly, without question, get a violent response from me. Dropping a halcyon in my drink because you think that shit's funny, and then when I pass out because I don't know, shaving my eyebrow or some shit. Like, at this point, there's no ha-ha in that, man.
Just dropping.
One of us.
Doing that to anyone else even is fucking huge heat with me. Huge. And I know, like, some people are like, hey, mind your own business or whatever, but no. fucking, like, because, you know, I mean, that used to be done a lot, and people, you know, look what happens, you hear about these days, people, you know, getting raped or whatever. I mean,
yeah, fuck yeah. And it was happening then. They just wasn't social media to talk about it, you know?
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm
But
with
how
you
fucked
100%.
up is that? You minding your own business, hanging out, and all of a sudden you pass out because somebody thought it would be funny to throw a fucking halcyon in your drink.
And unfortunately, that used to be, like, considered funny. And it used to be very commonplace. And I'm so grateful that it doesn't exist anymore.
Did you ever have to step in the way of someone pulling a rib on somebody else and be like, this is too far?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
F yeah. Hell yes.
Enough is enough. That's,
So, but anyways, man, I don't want to talk too much about, like, your WWE stint, but you were there, man. So, but I want to know how that happened. How'd you end up getting hooked up in WWE?
Dude, my career has been crazy. That my dream was to wrestle in Japan. Like, for me, the highest height that I could reach was to wrestle at the Tokyo Dome, and I fantasized of, you know, being like a Stan Hansen type guy where I go to Japan, wrestle a few weeks out of the year, but not a few months out of the year, whatever. You just go on tours, you know, make a decent 6-figure income, come back here to the States, and nobody would know who the fuck I was. I thought, man, that's what a great way. And I've always been a fan of Japanese history and culture. And I had a few tryouts with WWE, and Johnny Ace. One day I was fed up because I'd had, like, you know, 3 tryouts, or, you know, just got booked as an extra, and nothing ever came of it. And Johnny was walking down the hall, and I'm like, Johnny, can you give me 5 minutes? He was like, busy kid. I said, all right, 2 minutes. So, busy kid. I'm like, man, Johnny, just 30 seconds. Just give me 30 seconds. And he stops, and he says, all right, kid, what do you want? I said, tell me what the fuck I have to do to get hired. Tell me what you need from me to give me a job. What do I have to do? And I could tell Johnny was kind of taken aback because nobody talks to Johnny. Or back then, you know, nobody talked to Johnny Ace like that. You know, your whole career is in his hands if you're just, you know, an unknown guy.
Yeah.
But he was impressed by that. And he said, well, we like you. Back then I used to wrestle with Antonio Banks. He goes, well, we like you, Banks. We just don't have anything for you. Come back, you know, come up with something that we don't already have, something character-based, because we're going back to more character-based personalities. And, you know, get back with us. So, you know, I felt blown off again. I was like, man, fuck. And at the time I was working out on South Beach doing, you know, security and working the clubs. And I would see all of these pompous, self-absorbed, you know, overpaid pro athletes come to the club acting like the world owed them something. And, you know, a lot of these guys weren't even, like, you know, starters on the team or first-round draft pick busts showing up like, hey, you know, I'm so-and-so with, you know, 15 people. Like, yeah, fuck off, man. And they were always dickheads and arrogant.
Stiffing the waitress, like, on the tip and shit.
Yeah. Whereas, like, actual legends, like Jim Brown or Dr. J.
Yeah.
Like, one night I stood outside the club for 15, 20 minutes just shooting shit with Barry Sanders, who was completely disinterested with being in the club. We talked and didn't talk anything about football, nothing at all, you know. And then by comparison, you get these other dickheads that feel like, you know, and bing, light bulb went on. I'm like, wait, that hasn't been done in wrestling yet. Every week you could turn on SportsCenter and there's some pro athlete doing or saying something stupid. So there's no shortage of material for a character like that. So I came up with the idea of a character I'd call an MVP, and I came up with the name Montel because do you know any white people named Montel?
No, I don't.
Montavious, because it was, you know, like one of these black exotic names like Lavernius Coles or LeBron James, you know, Fontavious, because it just fit. And Porter, because Jerry Porter was my favorite receiver at the time. So, bam, MVP. And I came up with a whole concept. And here's the beauty of it. Remember Ricky Santana?
Of course I remember Ricky, yeah.
Ricky Santana and Johnny Ace are really good friends. Johnny Ace used to sleep on Ricky's couch back in the day, in the territory days when Ricky was making money. And I told Ricky the idea for MVP, and he said, man, that sounds like money, bro. I said, well, I'm scared to pitch it to Johnny because I'm scared they'll steal my shit. And he said, all right, well, let me talk to him. So he says, I give Johnny a call. I talked to him. He gave me his word, man to man, that he won't steal your shit. So Johnny calls me up. All right, kid, what do you got? I ran down the MVP deal to him. Said, I like it. He said, write me like 20 vignettes and storyline ideas. So what I ended up doing was putting together this very professional-looking treatment with a table of contents and chapters, and there was a chapter on how MVP dresses, how he looks. Johnny said 20, and I put 20 vignettes and storyline ideas. I included a picture of, pictures of me in a suit and whatnot, and I sent 2 promos, one with me doing a minute so they could see I could hit time, and one that was about 4.5 minutes to see that I could tell an entertaining story. And Alex Greenfield, who's my podcast partner, said that Court Bauer brought it to him and said, have you guys seen this shit yet? And they popped it in the writer's room, and they watched the promos, and they saw the whole deal, and everybody was impressed. And they showed it to Vince, and Vince was, God damn it, let's get him on TV. And they're like, well, Vince, he's not signed. Well, God, why not? Sign him. And that's how MVP came to be. And the funny thing is, when the day they made a decision to hire me, at the time, I was at my girlfriend's house, and I left my phone in my truck because she would go through my shit sometimes. So we had a late night, so I came down in the afternoon, and my whole missed call log was calls from Ricky Santana. And I was like, oh shit. So I called Ricky, and he goes, bro, where the fuck you been? I said, oh man, I was up at my girl's crib, man. It was 3:30, I remember. And he goes, man, what the dude? I said, I got bad news and I got worse news. Which do you want first? I was like, well, fuck, that's not much to work with. I said, fuck it. All right, man. Yeah, give me the worst news. So the worst news is I got a call from New Japan, bro. They were looking for a young black guy to work on top with Chono. I'm like, oh, get the fuck out of here, man. Now, Chono, for those of you who don't know, is an institution in Japanese wrestling. The coolest motherfucker ever to step through the ropes.
For sure.
And he was like my favorite stylistically. And when he told me that they needed to hear something by 3 o'clock, it was already 3:30. I was like, man, could you call him back? He was too bad, bro. They already went with some guy from California. I'm not bullshitting when I tell you my eyes literally welled up with tears. I was crushed that like I missed this moment to go wrestle in Japan with Chono. Then he said, well, you want to hear the bad news? I'm like, yeah, fuck it, Rick. What's the bad news? He goes, well, I talked to Johnny Ace, and they don't want you at Ohio Valley Wrestling Developmental. So at this point, I'm questioning my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, all I've worked for at this point is just, to be able to make a living as a pro wrestler. And, Japan and WWE, it's like both of those doors are closed now. I was 31, turning 32 at the time, and I was crushed. And then Ricky says, well, don't you want to know why they don't want you at Ohio Valley? I'm like, sure, Rick, why? Because they want you at Deep South Wrestling in Atlanta. Call Johnny right now. He's going to give you a job. I'm like, you motherfucker.
Why did they
talk about going from the depths of the deepest valleys to the heights of the highest joys of elation, like an emotional roller coaster of the worst kind? And I called Johnny, and he thought that was the funniest shit in the world. And Ricky ribbed me like that.
Everybody's got a rib, right?
Yeah.
You can't. We always got to do that, don't we? Man, it's just impossible. It seems like not to do that to somebody when they're giving them shit like that.
Do you know who the guy from California that ended up going to fill your spot was?
Oh, they just made that shit up. That shit wasn't even true.
Oh, man.
So it really was a rib.
There was no New Japan, no spot in California, none of that shit. That was just...
I'm like racking my brain trying to think who it would be. I was like, who would it be?
Why'd they send you to Deep? Why'd they send you to Deep South instead of Ohio Valley?
Because Deep South was brand new. It had just opened up. So that's where they were sending the new talent to help fill that up.
I see.
And Deep South was interesting, too, because, Bill DeMott was the head trainer there.
Yeah.
And you know, you've heard the stories. And I always say this about Bill. His pendulum swung both ways. Like, there were times when I would tell you he was the most miserable fucking prick I had ever been around.
Yeah.
And then conversely, there were times when, you know, I'm like, man, I love this Bill. One of the greatest, funnest fucking guys to be with, man. Wow, you know, this guy's great. But, you know, when it came to training day, you didn't know which Bill was showing up.
Yeah.
Some days it was fun Bill, and some days it was not so fun Bill.
Yeah, I didn't have to. Obviously, I didn't have to deal with any of that. But you know, I've heard the story. So apparently, you made it through just fine, though.
Well, you know, yeah. I mean, part of that is that for me, you had a lot of people there at Deep South that have never really been anywhere. That was literally their first time away from home. And then, you know, you had 2 or 3 guys that had maybe done some trips to Japan. You know, wrestling-wise, I had been to Puerto Rico. I'd spent a few months in Puerto Rico. But I had been in prison. So, there was just a certain dynamic there that, hey, I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to do everything I got to do. But, you know, all that other shit, we ain't having that, dog, you know. And, you know, again, like, I remember it got kind of bad at one point where people were writing anonymous letters to the office. They were just scared to death, and, you know, the training was hard, and it was rough. But, you know, I knew what I wanted to do. I had plans. I had somewhere to go.
Sure, and
obviously
you weren't going to let any of that stuff get in the way of what you wanted.
No, I had a goal. I knew where I was trying to get to. You know, that you know, developmental was just a pit stop on the way.
Yeah, how long were you there for?
Fuck, I remember I reported like the weekend of my birthday in October, and then I got called up the following year in August, so barely a year.
That's really not a short time if you ask me. I was thinking maybe 6 months, but wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So you were in
November,
Deep South?
December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Yeah, it was about 8-9 months before I got called up.
So you were there when you cut this infamous promo that got you called up?
Oh, you heard that story?
Well,
huh?
yeah, I've heard that story. I was wondering if you could talk about this promo and if you remember it, how it went.
I don't remember the exact words, but I remember the context. Monday night, I was watching Raw, and Shelton Benjamin made his entrance. And it was a brand new Shelton Benjamin with sunglasses and an unbuttoned shirt. And
did he have blonde hair or something?
Ross,
the gold standard?
I don't know if he was doing the gold standard yet. I don't recall him having the blonde hair yet. I just remember JR referring to him as the Terrell Owens of the WWE. And immediately I took umbrage to that. I'm like, these motherfuckers signed me to steal my shit, and now they're going to fire me.
Yeah.
So right away, I called Chris DeJoseph, who I had been working with, and I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this shit, man? And he goes, no, MD, just take it easy. Everything's cool. We got plans for you. Like, this has nothing to do with you. I swear it's all right. But, you know, my bullshit detector's like, nah, man, they're trying to fuck me over. And I remember we had to do promos, and we had to do 2-minute promos. And then they would send them to the office, and, you know, the writers would look at them and watch them and, you know, see who was promising. And I showed up wearing one of my suits, cheap-ass K&G suits, and I didn't even have my hair braided. I had my fro out. And I remember starting the promo saying something to the effect of, hey, remember me, MVP? It's a good thing that these suits that I bought for this MVP gimmick I can actually wear on South Beach, because this is really me. And I went on to say something about how, you know, like, I don't know what makes you think that you could take something from me. Because remember, I'm the guy that used to stick a shotgun in people's mouths and tell them, I will take from you or I will take your life. And you think you're going to take from me? And I did some shit like that. Where I went on talking about, you know, like, I'm real. This is really me with the volume cranked up. And you could try to take someone else, and dress him up and put him on TV with his mama. And and I think I made some kind of because at the time they were doing the Campbell Soup commercials, so I made some reference to one of the football players and his mama and whatnot. But ultimately, when they saw that promo, and I went and I told the cameraman beforehand, I said, "Look, I'm gonna go over on this. Just do me a favor, please don't shut the camera off." And at that time, me and Bill DeMott had kind of, we were, had a little friction. So everybody was dead quiet in Deep South. Everyone was like, "Oh shit, this motherfucker's crazy. He's gonna get fired." And Bill looks at me and says, "That was a great promo. What are you gonna do when they turn it off in 2 minutes?" I said, "You and I both know they ain't turning that shit off." Yeah. And I walked out, and everyone was quiet. And this one Puerto Rican dude who was there, Eric, he comes up and shakes my hand and said, "Hey, bro, it was good working with you, man. It was good knowing you." And about 2 weeks later, I got called up.
But when he said it's good knowing you, they thought you were gone?
Everybody thought I was going to get fired. They thought I was about to get fired. They thought I was out. And Brian Gewirtz, I saw him when he came up to me in the hotel gym when they called me up for to do a dark match and have a look. And he said, "Oh yeah, that promo was it was disturbing." I said, "Good, I'm glad." And that was that.
Did he mean that? Did he mean that in a good way or a bad way?
I think a little bit of both. I think it was, kind of like, I think, he was a little, Brian Gewirtz is a little shifty, rat-faced dweeb. So, he was like, the reality of that.
Yeah.
I know had to make him, he's the kind of dude that, like, when you cross the street, he, like, locks the door.
Yeah, he was like that, man.
He tries to reach over and hit the door lock.
I just saw him recently, though, man. He's grown up, man. That kid's grown up, and he came into the. We had huge heat with each other, huge heat, man. I put him.
I don't have a big opinion of him.
Well, I didn't either, but I do now, and I look back on shit with him, and I feel like I kind of bullied him a bit. But he came in the business. He was like, I don't know, probably 18 or something, man, and getting thrown in this with us. But that's a whole nother fucking story, man. I didn't mean to go off into the weeds on Gewirtz, but
that's cool. When I met him, he was a head writer for Raw, and when I got transferred from SmackDown to Raw, all of a sudden, I was just putting shitty bullshit storylines. Sure. And I went from being on the rocket ship to not mattering. And anytime I would, rope him up and ask him what's up, you know how he was always real shifty-eyed and shit.
Yeah.
He couldn't look me in the eye, and he'd just be stumbling and humming and hawing. And, there was a couple things he did very specifically that I asked him about. And then when it came time for, the TV show, for actual TV, he did some fucked up shit. I won't go into the specifics of it, but now I see he's doing his thing with Rock and running his production company and all that, and that's all good. But he didn't do anything for me in my career. As a matter of fact, to the contrary.
Right. I can say the same thing.
He hindered my career.
I can say the same thing, but I have to also look just as far as my own situation with him. I brought a little bit of on myself. That's just me, And I had a way of doing that back then, but that was, like I said, that's just me.
Oh, you? No way.
Yeah.
No.
Oh God, looking back, oh man. But so, how long was your run there?
Man, I think I was there 4 years.
It's a nice solid.
I released in December of 2010. I think I asked for a release.
And why was that exactly?
You know what, man? As I said, my dream was always to wrestle in Japan.
Right.
And everybody who knew me always heard me say, before I retire, I'm going to go wrestle in Japan. At least once in my career, I want to hear that. And there was my career would be nothing if I never experienced that, And at that point, I think I was just making my way out of the doghouse. They were just, starting to, use me in a positive way. And little catalyst the week before where me and an executive had some words, and I invited him outside, and you know, I was just sick of it. I'm like, dude, you're not talking to me like that. I don't give a fuck who you think you are. And then I went to him and I'm like, look, you know, he apologized because he was in the wrong, really. But we discussed it, and I'm like, you know what? The following week I went to Johnny Ace. I'm like, hey man, I want my release because right now I'm just not happy being here, and I don't want to leave here under circumstances that won't allow me to come back. So let me leave here under circumstances where the door could potentially be open. And I didn't go to Vince and ask for my release because I know 3 or 4 other guys who went to Vince to ask for their release. And Vince used the Jedi mind trick and made him stay. And
man, nobody
Johnny
better at it than him.
Yeah, no. I call Vince the Emperor.
Yep.
Vince is Emperor Palpatine. Yeah.
Well, he was always called the
WWE
Emperor.
is the Empire.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And don't get it twisted. Stephanie is Darth Vader.
Wow. I don't subscribe to that. But, oh shit.
No, I mean that in a very complimentary way. You know, like as far as the Empire goes, you know, when the Emperor goes down, who do you think's running shit? Darth Vader.
So, but are you trying to say that Darth Vader, like, because in, you know, Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader's the one that killed the Emperor. So, anyways, well, how the fuck did I get up on
that far, but
right?
I didn't know you were that into Star Wars.
God, huge Star Wars mark.
Yeah.
Well, God, what are people thinking listening to this shit?
Well, if Vince is the Emperor, who is his Sith apprentice? Stephanie's been groomed for that spot since she was a little girl. So,
but you had a good relationship with Johnny Ace. I know that.
Yeah, man. We had a pretty good relationship.
Not everyone did. Yeah, not everyone did. You were one of the guys that I heard back then. You know, talk about Johnny. You know, always being up front with you, and you know, I never had to deal with Johnny in that capacity. I didn't know him that way.
Yeah, see, he was the guy that hired me. So, you know, he was my boss, and, you know, he knew about my passion for Japan, and there were plenty of times we'd be at the bar, you know, drinking beer, and I'd be asking him, oh, man, John, tell me about that time you worked with Misawa. Oh, tell me about that time in Korakuen Hall with Kabashi, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I was and still am such a huge mark for that. So we bonded over that, which is ultimately how I asked for my release, too. When I told him I was ready to go, I said, Johnny, you know my dream's always been to wrestle in Japan. I'm ready to leave here. I want to go wrestle in Japan. And
I sure hope
so
that
I said, all right.
I sure hope that you already had a gig lined up before you asked for your release.
I sure didn't.
Oh,
wow.
God.
So you were just rolling the dice.
No parachute.
How did you think you were going to hold on to a parachute after you already jumped out? Apparently you did.
Do some fucking James Bond shit.
Right? It worked. It worked.
Does that go back to that not having a plan B situation where it's like all or nothing?
Don't have a plan B. Well, you know what? I remember I felt confident that I would be able to get a job because when I met Jado and Gato in San Diego, they got brought in for a tryout.
Yeah.
And they saw me with Benoit. Benoit was my friend and mentor. And they saw me doing 500 squats with him and running the arena stairs with him. And, you know, really, at that point, I was devoted. Like, me and Chris trained together hard. And Chris introduced me to them. And I'm like, oh, shit, Jado Gato, what's up, man? And they were shocked that I knew who they were. But then they realized what a huge fan of Japanese wrestling I was, and we hit it off. So way later, when I went through an intermediary and put the word, you know, hey, man, I'm interested in coming to WWE, coming to Shin-Nihon, New Japan, they, you know, they were, you know, pretty, what's the word? They facilitated it to a great degree. And I remember Johnny Ace asked me, he said, well, what do you do? I said, I'm going to New Japan. He said, well, do you have any contacts over there? I said, well, I'm working on it. He goes, you want me to make a call for you? I said, no, I got this. They said, all right, cool. All right, well, if you need anything, just let me know. And then Hattori called me, and I talked to Hattori, and Hattori said, yeah, you got some papers with WWE something? I said, nah, contract complete, finished. He goes, oh, well, you got to get some legal papers or something. I said, all right, no problem. Then I called Ace up and I said, Ace, could you let Hattori know that, you know, I'm free and clear. I've got no contractual obligations. And he did that, and I debuted, and of all places, I debuted in Sendai.
Sendai, yeah. The port of Sendai, that's where we would take see, when I wrestled with Jado and Gato and Universal Pro, our company didn't have enough money to fly to Hokkaido, so we'd have to get on a ferry in Sendai and sail all the way to Sapporo on a damn ferry. Yeah.
How long is that ride?
It's a long-ass way, especially when you're going through a typhoon.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Anyways.
And speaking of typhoon, Sendai was the epicenter of where the big quake was.
That's right.
4/11.
Yeah.
When you know what, like.
And the Fukushima reactor, right?
And 17,000 just unaccounted for, swept away. As a matter of fact, dude, I was in Tokyo when that quake hit. And,
you were over there?
Dude, that shit. I was there when it happened. I wasn't in Sendai, but I was in Tokyo. And so a few hundred miles away. But even in Tokyo, dude, that shit was fucking insane. Watching buildings rock and cracks open up in the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And, like, I was in Asakusa.
Asakusa,
yeah.
The marketplace, right? With the Bushido, with the Buddhist temple.
Yes.
Or the Shinto.
Yeah, my friend Nakubi took me there to give me a little tour and whatnot, and then we went to this on the corner. We went to this little izakaya, and I had a big tank of beer, and we're eating and talking, and like, man, this is my dream come true. Like, fuck, I'm in Japan. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And the quake starts, and at first I started smiling, like, oh shit, my first Japanese earthquake. This is cool. And then, like, shit started falling off the walls and shit was crashing. And Japan is, I think, like the third most seismically active country in the world.
It's in the ring of fire.
Right, yeah. So, like, in LA, if an earthquake that gets everything stopping in LA just makes Japanese people pause for a second. Everything good? All right, keep moving. That shit doesn't faze them at all. But when I saw Japanese people climbing under tables and crying and people getting, I'm like, oh, kiss my ass. My whole life I wanted to be here, and now I'm going to die here. This is fucked up.
So where exactly were you? My first earthquake over there, I was on like the 30th or 40th floor of the Kyo Plaza.
No, I was on the first floor in this Japanese izakaya. But here's the thing about that. That earthquake was the most powerful earthquake in recorded history, 9.1. And so, like, the aftershocks are going to be in the high 8s and then so forth and so on. So I was in the Tokyo Dome Hotel on, like, the 20-something floor. And, it's cool because Japanese technology, the buildings are made to sway, to withstand the force of an earthquake. But, like you said, when you're way that high up and an aftershock in, like, the high 7s, 8s hits, I'm laying there in my room and the fucking building, I can hear it go.
Sounds like Godzilla and Rodan are about to fight.
Oh man, it was just the screeching steel as this 40-something floor hotel sways back and forth from the aftershock, and then to drop on top of that, like you said, the Fukushima reactor hit. And I'm like, okay, I survived the earthquake, and I'm going to die in 10 years from radiation poisoning. Like, damn, man. Hey. And it was cool because New Japan got us out of there. They drove us, had us go down to the next city where we were supposed to go, and everything was fine. They really took care of us.
You're the type of guy I noticed that when you set out to do something, you immerse yourself in it. Like when you went to Japan, you learned the language. I mean, I don't know if you're proficient in it, but you're pretty damn good at it.
Well, no, I didn't get fluent, but yeah, I made it a point to actually, try to be able to chat with the boys a little bit and be able to order food and find my way to the hotel and whatnot. you got to know how to ask women their names and if they want to come back to the room, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're really into anime, right? You're super into anime, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'm Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo are my two favorite of all time by far and away.
So did learning Japanese help you watching the anime or reading the manga?
It was the other way around.
Oh.
Watching anime helped me learn Japanese because I'd watch it in Japanese with English subtitles. And you know what's cool about that? Like I like to watch like Yakuza movies, with Beat Takeshi and shit. And I remember watching a show and seeing the translation on the screen and smiling from ear to ear, going, "That's not what he said. That's not what he said at all." My first time, there's a Subway right across the street from the Tokyo Dome Hotel, Subway sandwich place, and I'm going to put over, they didn't pay me for this, but I'm going to put over the Rosetta Stone because that shit really, really helps you. If you want to learn a language, that shit works, and it helped me a lot with my Japanese. And I was standing in the Subway because it teaches you how to read, write, and speak the language simultaneously. So I'm standing in Subway and I'm looking at the symbols. It was katakana that I was looking at, hiragana, and I'm looking at it and it says O-E-Shi. It's like on the Sesame Street sounding the word out, O-E-Shi, and I didn't even have any control over it. I just burst out, O-E-Shi. Oh, I know that word. And all these Japanese people started looking at me, smiling and laughing.
Doesn't that mean delicious?
Learning Nihongo. Nihongo wa hanasemasu. Sumimasen. And so good. Okay. Oishi desu. Hi, so oishi desu. And oishi means delicious.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So
it's one of the
I had
few
my
I
moment,
remember.
my first time learning to read in Japanese.
Nice. A lot of people don't do that, man. They just go over there. They take the money. They have fun and everything, but I have to say I was one of those. I had a real, I just, please, thank you, how to order a beer or simasen, to get somebody's attention. And that was about it. Yeah. But I just loved it, man. What was your favorite memory over there? Not to sound like coming off with the generic questions, like what's your favorite color question?
No, dude. You know what? I'm glad you asked that question because, for me, remember, WWE was my goal.
Right.
Japan was my dream. So to wrestle in Japan was, for me, quite literally a dream come true. And people ask me, hey, man, what match were you the most nervous for? And it wasn't WrestleMania, it wasn't wrestling Undertaker or Benoit, not to say I wasn't nervous the first time I did all that, but the most nervous I had ever been in my entire career was my very first match at Korakuen Hall.
Me too!
You too?
Yes! Yes.
All right, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, and I had wrestled a shitload at that point, and I was so freaking nervous because at that point that was the capital of the world for pro wrestling. No other building had more wrestling shows in it than they'd have one. They'd been having one in the afternoon and be clearing out the ring and putting another ring in there for a show at night that we were having. It was amazing, and I was so freaking nervous I forgot to take my wedding ring off. I was married at a young age, so I was 19. I remember
you wrestled with the ring on?
Yeah.
Did you put tape over it or anything?
No. I was shitting my pants before I went out there. I wrestled Dick Togo in my first match over there. Who'd you wrestle?
Togo.
Yeah.
I wrestled Machine Gun Anderson, Carl Anderson, now of WWE fame.
Yeah.
But I want to say it was for the New Japan Cup too. So it was my very first match in Korakuen Hall was with one of their established foreigners in a tournament match. And back then, Korakuen Hall, they painted all over it now. It sucks. But back then, the stairwell was marked up with graffiti of all the wrestlers who had been there. So everybody's name was on the wall. Everyone, and I'm just reading, looking at all these guys who, to me, legends, just some of my buddies, and I'm like, fuck, I am here, man. Pacing back and forth, like unbelievably nervous, the pressure I put on myself because of the importance that I placed, the significance on that building.
Yeah.
And went out there and had a great match with Machine Gun, who's awesome. Loved the match with him. Loved working with him. When I was over there, I used to tweet pictures of me, him, and Shinsuke, and say like, I'm over here with some of the greatest guys you've never heard of. Here are two of the best guys you've never heard of. And
who are some of those guys? Who are some of those guys? I mean, I know who some of them are, but maybe a lot of people listening that you were over there with that everyone knows who they are now.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Right. My favorite.
Carl Anderson. Okada, people will know him. I mean, I think New Japan would do. I don't think they'll let him get away for anything come hell or high water. They'll mortgage the fucking island if they have to keep him.
That's what they should.
Yeah, and I heard that, because before when I used to go over, New Japan, they didn't do big long-term contracts.
Right.
And for me, my contract was tour to tour. I never signed a contract with New Japan for more than a few weeks.
Who were the Gaijins, though, that you went over there with? The American foreigners?
Well, when I was there, it was me, Baldo, and Carl were a tag team.
Baldo is Matt
Albert.
Bloom, a.k.a. Prince Albert.
Yeah. Then there was Lance Hoyt, who wrestles in Japan as Lance Archer.
Right.
Achasan. His tag partner.
Davey Boy Smith, yeah. Killer Elite Squad.
Well, Davey Boy Smith Jr., they call him, yeah. Let me see, who else was over there with us at the time? Of course, Prince Devitt.
Yeah.
Who now they know him as Finn Balor or Finn Balor or whatnot.
Were the Young Bucks over there yet?
No, not yet. They came way after I was going.
Kenny Omega?
You also had Rocky Romero.
Oh,
who
yes.
was, part of the No Remorse Corps.
Yeah, he was my partner in Mexico, and he was a guest on the show here not that long ago.
Asuka Rock.
Yeah. Nice, man. That's a nice little crew.
Yeah, it was a good squad of guys, man. You had a good squad of foreigners over there when I was there.
And
pretty good team.
Not long after they brought you over there, you were their Intercontinental Champion. Were you their first IC champ?
Yeah, they held a tournament and crowned me as the first ever IWGP Intercontinental Champion.
Did they make that belt just for you?
I'd like to think they did, right?
I'd like to think so, too.
No, I think they had plans of introducing a secondary title.
Right.
And, I thought they thought that it would pop the title to bring in a WWE, a name off that roster to start the lineage with that title. And since then, man, some legendary figures have been the IC champion. So it's real proud for me to know that the legacy of that title starts with me. And for a guy who worshiped Japanese wrestling, like to be able to be in the history books and to be a part of I mean, fuck, dude, my picture's on the wall in Ribera. That's all I ever wanted, man.
Oh, but you know how that works, right? You know how that works. The guy that owns Ribera, when he knows who's coming into town, he'll switch the pictures up and put your picture on the wall when he knows you're coming. But it's better than not doing it at all.
No, but I got a permanent spot.
Oh,
because
good.
I went there twice.
Nice.
I went there twice without giving him the heads up. One time I showed up with this chick we didn't call, and my shit was in the same spot. And another time I went on my own with no heads up, and I showed up, and my picture was in the same spot.
Right on. Did you? Didn't you beat Kojima for the IC title?
No. Me and Kojima, we only wrestled in a G1 match. But
okay.
I beat. It was a tournament, and the last person that I faced in the tournament for the IC title was Toru Yano.
Oh, okay.
Who's a tremendously talented guy in his own right. But yeah, let it be known, I had to fight Okada in that tournament. He wasn't the Rainmaker yet, but he was Okada, and I beat him. So let it be known, I got a win over Okada.
Let it be known, people.
Let it be known. Write that shit down.
And now, how did your run end in New Japan?
Man, I just I had been over there for 2 years.
Yeah.
I got Shelton in, and they put us together as a tag team.
Black Dynamite.
Yeah. Talk about a heartbreak. Again, like, Chris Benoit was my friend, my mentor, my favorite wrestler, and I got to wrestle him at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They told me at Wrestle Kingdom I was supposed to tag up with Chono. At that point, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to retire. It won't get any better than that. I fucking wrestled Benoit Mania, tagged with Chono at Wrestle Kingdom. I'm done, bitch. And then they called me and said, hey, look, something went down with Inoki, and Chono-san can't do Tokyo Dome. So you got some partner you want to bring? So I'm like, fuck. So I called Jericho, but Jericho had just re-signed with WWE on the download. I called Dave Bautista, who would have loved to, but he was shooting a movie, so scheduling didn't work. And then I called my buddy Shelton Benjamin, who was my brother from another mother and lives right around the corner. And he was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm down. And we tagged up, and they ended up keeping us together for a while, and I had a blast. And at that point, I just wanted to take a little time off. And I was thinking about going back to the WWE, and I just took a year off. I asked for, I told them, I gave them my notice, and they were real cool. And they said, hey, doors open if you want to come back. Thank you very much. And I took a year off from wrestling, man. All I did was train jiu-jitsu and just travel and just let my body heal and enjoy life a little bit. And when it was time for me to go back to WWE, or when I was ready to go back, TNA swooped in and was like, hey, we'll offer you this much money for 50 dates a year. And I went, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And I ended up going to TNA.
Yeah. And you did. And how long were you in TNA for? Because I know it was you, Joe, and was it Kenny King?
Kenny King and Low Key is the Beatdown Clan.
Yeah.
Yeah, about a year and a half, man. About a year and a half. And that shit ended real sour because, what's his name? Big John Gaburg. He was the guy who finagled his way into an executive spot. And like, he let Joe's contract expire, and then he and Joe had a very nasty little exchange. And Joe said, "Fuck it, I'm out." And Joe ended up signing, with NXT. I needed a what do you call it? A heavy hitter for the squad, and one of the writers at TNA suggested Hernandez, Shawn Hernandez, Super Mex. And he and I were always pretty cool from back in the day when I was doing tryouts at TNA. And he was at Lucha Underground at the time, and what ended up happening, his contract with Lucha Underground was up, but the contract stipulated that he couldn't appear on TV for anyone else until all of his TV appearances with Lucha expired. I had a meeting with Gaburg about, who we were going to hire to be the heater on the squad. And I said, well, what about Hernandez? And he was, well, when he left here, it was, under pretty bad terms. And, I saw some interviews where he wasn't too happy with how the company, treated him. And he said, if you can get him to come back, I'd love to have him. I said, all right, let me talk to him. Fast forward, they managed to get him. He signed Hernandez. Hernandez joined the Beatdown Clan. And it was so cool because I had Homicide and Hernandez, the LAX, reunited under the Beatdown Clan banner. It was going to be great. Then I get a call from Gaburg telling me, hey, listen, we got a huge problem. Hernandez was still under contract to Lucha Underground. And he explained about the TV appearances and how they offered Lucha Underground money to let it ride. And, they did everything they possibly could. And Lucha Underground was, nope, you get him off your TV. We had shot 8 episodes of television with Hernandez in it. 8 weeks of TV with Hernandez. So the kicker in all that is this. I asked him, well, what are we going to do? He said, well, the Beatdown Clan, that angle is just over. It's done. It's just, you're disbanded. It's over. I'm like, no explanation. It just ceased to exist. He goes, yeah, we're done with that. I'm like, okay. What am I going to do? And he goes, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we think right now it's best if we just go our separate ways from a business standpoint. I said, wait a minute, hold on. Why the fuck am I fired? Like, what did I do? He goes, oh, well, you just caught up in the heat. I said, wait a minute, how do I have heat? I didn't hire him. You don't have heat? You hired him. You didn't vet his contract? Like, if anybody should be fired, it should be you for hiring the guy without, checking out his contract. And he goes, well, I got a different spot than you, and he told me straight up in no uncertain terms, Hassan, you're just taking the heat for this. You're catching the shrapnel. So I'm like, I'm fired for your fucked up decision. And he goes, well, just keep this under wraps for a little while, and maybe in a few months I can bring you back. And I'm like, dude, you got me fucked up, man. Like, how do you fix your mouth to say some shit like that? You fucked up, but I'm getting fired.
It sounds like you didn't get the heat. It sounds like the heat was put on you.
It was shifted to me. Yeah, the heat was placed on me.
Yeah, nobody just mistakenly thought it was you. Somebody fucking put the finger on you.
And that somebody would be John Burke.
Yeah. Wow.
He hung me out to dry, and that's how I ended up leaving TNA. I never wanted to leave TNA. I got fired from TNA.
But were you under contract?
Yeah, I was under contract at the time. I was in my second year of a 2-year deal.
So how many of those 50 dates did you get to do before?
And they owed me money, too.
Oh, did they not pay you?
Well, from the previous year, again, John Gaburik, his lying ass, from the previous year, they didn't give me all of the dates that we were contractually obligated to. They were short. And he said, hey, man, just, work with me and we'll make up those dates next year. I'm like, all right, no big deal. Needless to say, those dates never got made up. So, yeah, it was pretty ugly. And I always say this, man, like, as far as TNA is concerned, I never understood people that wished ill to the company. Oh, I hope they go out of business. Like, that's fucking stupid. The industry needs a TNA or Impact Wrestling.
Agreed.
And people work there, man. People feed their families. Like, I never understood that mentality. I don't like orange soda. I don't wish for Sunkist to go out of business. I just don't drink orange soda. That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
I just used to get mad and frustrated and just wish. I didn't wish ill. I wished for them just to do the right thing for the when it came to their talent, and how they treated talent,
I agree.
man.
And this is what I've said all along, man. As far as they were concerned, they were just plagued by bad management for so many years, man. Like Dixie does not have a clue. And, it was one of those things where it was like the emperor's new clothes. She just surrounded herself with people that would go, yeah, Dixie, that's great.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the talent suffered and the production crew suffered. But I'm interested in seeing what happens now because they've got new ownership. Jeff Jarrett is back in the chair, driving the car as I understand it. And, I'm not exactly certain, but I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that TNA at its most successful was under Jeff Jarrett.
Yes.
So I'm hoping he's able to turn that around and get that engine revving again because it's just good for wrestling, period.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to see it do well, and Jeff knows what's up. I've always loved Jeff as far as I love working with him, but I always just really respected his business acumen and as far as the wrestling industry. He's just smart, And it's easy to take a guy like that for granted until he's gone.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything he's ever done, trust me, but I mean, shit, people can say that about me all day long.
Oh, people can say that about all of us.
Exactly.
No one's mistake free. No one has everything down completely. People and it's funny. One of the things you said made me laugh about things you did that you regret, but you're not full of regrets. And I'm
Sure.
like, man, you gotta live a life full of regrets. You have to. You have to go do some shit that you regret.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then what kind of life did you live? That means you never took a risk. That means you never went out there. That means you never said, fuck it, I'm going to do something that I want to do. And sometimes that shit will blow up in your face, but it builds character, you know, as long as it's not too bad, you know. But ultimately, like, have some regrets, because it's better to regret the things you did than the things you didn't.
As long as you feel bad about them eventually, you know, like, I don't know. I mean, that's just me. That's how I feel about it.
As long as you learn the lesson, you know, you move forward.
Yeah, if you come away with a lesson, you know, and you go, hey, I regret that happened, but, you know, I'm a better person for it, you know, then, all right, cool.
Yeah, I hope
and,
people,
you know,
I hope people
regrets
forgive
when
me.
you hurt other people, of course, that's a little different.
And I hope they forgive me, man, because I forgive everyone that's done shit to me. And that's the truth. I honest to God, I forgive everyone. I can
Man, you
honestly
gotta
say
teach
that.
me how to do that, man. I have problems with that shit, like holding on to shit. I haven't learned how to let shit go. I still got beef with people from junior high school, man. I'm not bullshitting, man. There's a couple dudes from junior high school. If I saw them right now today, I'd walk up to them and say, hey, motherfucker, remember me?
Yeah.
With WWE, obviously, is always considered the number one company, and for a while, TNA was considered number two. With TNA having their issues they're having now, and like Ring of Honor growing a bigger fan base and getting more national exposure, and now all these New Japan guys getting on TV in WWE and exposing like that universe to other wrestling outside of it. Who do you think, and with Lucha Underground, who do you think has the potential to come in and be that number two company?
Oh, wow. Potential to be the number two company. That's an interesting question. I would say that if Jeff Jarrett can somehow, and I have no idea what's going on, you know, over there, but if Jeff Jarrett could somehow get Impact back on Spike, and from what I understand, I think Impact is on Spike in England.
Yes.
If he can get Spike back on, if he can get Impact back on Spike here domestically, then I think that automatically puts them back in the number two spot with viewership, and I mean primarily with viewership, because that TV slot that they had for so long on Spike was, I think, the second highest rated show on Spike for a long time. So with ROH, you know, I don't think the deal that they've got with Sinclair, I don't think Sinclair, from what I've read and heard, is willing to make the kind of investment in ROH that you would need to take that second spot. For a while, I was really excited to see what Lucha Underground was doing, but I think El Rey Network, as awesome as it is, it just doesn't give enough. Well, I don't know. Now they're on Netflix too, so maybe that might help. But in terms of, again, of brand saturation, WWE at one point when I was there, I remember the number they put out is that they were seen in 50 million households worldwide.
Per week, yeah.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, number two is such a distant number two that, you know, how important is it?
Hey, how do you? I've noticed. Well, it's obvious to me. I've been saying this for a while. You know, for years, people like, you know, the older guys, my age, our age, older. Wrestling's dead. This shit nowadays. You know, all that stuff. Wrestling's pretty damn healthy and pretty damn good right now, man. I think wrestling's great right now.
There's definitely been a resurgence, and you know, with you know, now that I've been working the indies, and you know, my calendar stays full. I'm going all over the place, and I'm seeing, like, you know, there is a very healthy resurgence of pro wrestling. Going over to England, like last time I was over there, man, Stephen Flutter from PCW, Preston City, told me there's like 100 and something wrestling companies.
There's
in the
200. There's actually like 200.
Okay, yeah.
That do well. That do well, man.
Well, I mean, way too many, but just the same.
Yeah, but they all stick to their own. They all stick to their own area. They all stick to their own area. They all work with each other, all the promoters, and for the most part, and they all get along.
well, one of the things I loved about it is like, this last tour I did, they have like the little community centers or the drinking clubs.
That's right, yeah.
And man, it just the be honest, the atmosphere, everything is so close, and the people they're just there to have a good time. The banter and the singing, and
they're not there to tell you fucked up.
Yeah, right. They're not chanting "you fucked up," or they're not sitting on their hands like "entertain me." They came to have fun, and man, I love it. And one of the things I always stress, like when I go over there and I'll do seminars or whatnot, if you live in England and you're a professional wrestler and you've worked hard and you've built a name for yourself, there are enough companies over there that you can make a living as a professional wrestler in England.
Without a doubt.
Without being signed to a contract. If you've worked hard enough to get your name out there, there are enough promotions running on a regular basis that you're not going to be rich, but you can do what you love and pay your bills doing it and actually make a living as a professional. You can't do that here in the States.
The guys are starting to do it more, though. I know guys here in the States, independent guys, that this is all they do now.
Well, you know what? Yeah, for a very select group of guys. It's a small handful of guys that have enough national notoriety via internet, YouTube or whatnot, that they can actually make a living on the indies. And kudos to them. That's awesome because, I remember when I was coming up, that's all I wanted to do. If I could just, travel the country and, work shows and make enough money that I could pay my bills, fuck, that's all I wanted.
That's it, man. Yes, because then you can say, I'm a full-time pro wrestler. This is what I do, and that's all I do.
I am a pro wrestler. I wrestle professionally for a living.
But then again, you're also the Ronin.
I am. I serve no master.
Yeah, explain that. How that came about
For those who are not familiar, the term Ronin comes from feudal Japan, and it describes a masterless samurai, a samurai whose master was disgraced or maybe was killed in battle, so he has no one to serve. Miyamoto Musashi, probably the most famous samurai in history, he was a Ronin, and he just wandered the countryside looking for duels, and it's amazing that you can look, and he historically documented he had several duels and never lost one. And I'm such a fan of Japanese history and culture and feudal Japan and the whole, way Bushido,
Sure.
That I kind of saw those similarities and me in the world of pro wrestling. Like, yeah, I'm not contractually obligated to anyone. I serve no master. I don't serve the president of New Japan. I don't serve Vince. I call my own shots, and I just kind of wander the country looking for challenges inside of a wrestling match in the wrestling ring. I'm the Ronin of pro wrestling. I got my ghetto strong style,
and you're a recording artist as well.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. I can say that because I heard your shit, and it's dope.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's funny because people ask me, hey, man, what about your music career? I'm like, no, that never was a music career. It's a hobby. It's just something I really like to do. And, periodically I write music or write, it's hip-hop, so I'll find tracks that I like and, I'll write lyrics and I'll record it and I'll release it. And I do it for fun because if it was a job, I wouldn't want to do it. If I had deadlines and all that shit, fuck that. I don't want to do it.
So I heard in an interview recently you want to start a hardcore band.
This is true. I'm actually working on that.
Is that like in the works? Are you making that happen? Will that be a hobby as well? Or is that something you're going to put more effort into and make it more than a hobby and more like people are saying your hip hop career? Where it's like, oh, you're a musician, you're this, and you're like, no, that's a hobby.
You mean a hardcore band, like as in like Body Count, type like that?
Like a hardcore band, more like Sick of It All.
Oh, okay, got you.
I mean, yeah, Body Count, but just more traditional, old school hardcore. When I was a teenager, musically, I've always liked whatever appeals to me. I like
very eclectic
rock,
musical
I like
taste.
R&B, I like jazz, I like hip hop.
Yes.
So if I like it, I don't get caught up in, I only listen to this kind of music, or, I don't listen to that kind of music. That's just not me. And as a teenager, I used to work with this guy, Wes. He used to give me a ride home from work, and he used to play like all the old school hardcore. Back then it was like MDC and Black Flag and Angry Samoans.
Rollins Man.
Oh, well, shit. Rollins Band wasn't even out yet. He was still with Black Flag back then.
Wow.
So riding with him, we used to get in. I used to talk shit because at that time I was all Public Enemy and Eric B. and Rakim.
Yeah.
And he turned me on to this group called Bad Brains. And Bad Brains are your favorite rockers' favorite rockers. They are like the godfathers of punk in the United States. And these dudes are black rosters from Washington, D.C. And they came and just fucked the whole scene up. And racially, that connected with me, black rock. And these guys were just amazing. And then I got turned on to Fishbone. And then, actually, the cassette tape that he gave me, and this was in '87. On one side, it had Bad Brains. And on the other side, it had the Red Hot Chili Peppers Uplift Mofo Party playing. And at that point, there was no such thing as alternative music. Like, no one knew what a Red Hot Chili Pepper was if it wasn't on the plate. And but I fell in love with all this music, and then I started going to shows and shit. And when I was in prison, long before I ever jumped to becoming a pro wrestler, I wrote songs, hardcore. And, I envisioned myself as kind of like the Black Henry Rollins. I saw myself on stage with the mic cord wrapped around my hand and some black short song with no shirt and, just railing against the government and injustice. And I still have some of those songs. I found them in a notebook that I was going through some shit. And my buddy Alex from the Gaslight Anthem heard me on the Sam Roberts podcast talking about starting a hardcore band. And he was like, dude, let's do it. And I said, just like that? It was just like that. So he was trying to find the other members, and we finally got together a little collective of guys that we think this is the right mix. And the only holdup has been Alex. He had a baby, and he opened up the Jimmy John's, and he just got a lot of shit going on. But it's finally going to come to fruition. I can't say exactly when, but at this point, we pretty much got it narrowed down. I've got, we just got to get music and lyrics and record. And when that happens, dude, I can tell you that, wrestling at the Tokyo Dome was just, I can't even explain to you how exhilarating that was. Wrestling Benoit, WrestleMania was like surreal. But my dream of standing on a stage fronting a band predates any aspirations of being a pro wrestler by years and years. So if I ever get the chance to step on stage and tour on a festival, or if I get to go and play some fucking sweatbox club with 150 people crammed in there just to see my band, that for me would be like my single personal greatest achievement in terms of, goals and aspirations, because this is something that I dreamed of doing back when I was in prison, and it looks like it's finally coming together.
Nice. Hey, you're this guy that's talking to us right now about hardcore, Black Flag, all this stuff. Also, one of the biggest Steely Dan bands I've ever met in my life. Yeah, baby.
I might be the Steely Dan fan.
No, I mean I'm a fan, but not anywhere near close to you, man. I love that.
Yeah, no, dude, I love the band. I've seen them live like 4 times. I've taken trips just to go see them. I've seen them in New York. I've seen them in Oregon. I've seen them in Seattle.
Yeah. And also,
I'm a fan of the band.
And you seem to be pretty stoked when we took the picture at the Lemmy statue at the Rainbow when you were hanging out with me over there.
Fuck yeah, Motorhead. Like, dude, I love music.
Yeah, man.
And it's weird. Like, if you ask me, what's your favorite band? Like, dude, I have favorite bands, plural. Yeah. So, we could listen to Motorhead and then go from Motorhead straight to Parliament. From Parliament, we could go to fucking James Brown. From James Brown, we could go across the street and hit Steely Dan, catch back up with fucking Slayer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll get some Ghostface Killer and Wu-Tang in there.
Nice.
I'm all over the place.
Man, hey, there's so many things I can still ask you about for everyone, but I mean, we're pushing an hour and a half right now. All right, so I'm going to let you go, man. I really, really appreciate you spending the time with us. But before that, Jimbo, you guys want to let him have it with a few questions?
Well, there are things that I want you to talk about that I know you have, like you're working on opening up your own bar. You want to get into motivational speaking, being a dad, working on your book. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then I have a couple questions that I might toss in after.
All right, well, yeah, I'll knock those out real quick. Yes, it's my goal to open and own a bar. I keep having to push that back because it's all self-financed. It's just going to be me. I won't have any partners. So I'm taking my time so I can cross every T, dot every I, do it right. In a perfect world, my bar will open sometime next year, but I'm not pushing it. I'm a dad, never wanted kids, and I had an oops, and that oops turned out to steal my heart. That little
amazing.
Guy is just absolutely amazing, beautiful kid, smart, and he's changed me. He's made me a better man.
Yeah, he has.
Let me see. Well, what else was there? We got the bar. We got the.
You're working on a book?
Oh, the book. Yeah. I haven't started my autobiography yet. That's one that I want to get. But right now, I'm in the early stages of shopping a book that is basically a collection of stories from my time in prison, memories of shit I did, guys I hung out with, shit I saw, and I passed a few of the chapters around, let a few people read them, and they went, "Holy shit, dude, this is real." I said, "Yeah, this is straight. All the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but just some recollections from my time on the inside." What else was there? The book,
motivational speaking. You want to get into motivational
that's something
speaking?
I've been fortunate. I've had a few opportunities to do that, but it was just volunteer stuff. I'm hoping in the very near future, and it'll probably get easier, once I become an author and do a few other things. But I would like to become a paid motivational speaker, and I still volunteer sometimes, and I'll do stuff for at-risk youth, juvenile delinquents, ex-convicts. I had the honor of being an honorary judge at the Huntsville prison debate, where the inmates at the prison took on students from Texas A&M, and I got to be one of the judges. And the inmates beat the speech and debate team from Texas A&M. So that was a proud moment for me, and I got to go up and give a speech and, hopefully motivate some of those convicts. So stuff like that I will always do for free. But, I remember years ago reading about Pat Riley getting $25,000 for a 1-hour speech, and I thought, fuck, I'll take 10% of that to go talk for an hour if I can get that book on a regular basis. So, and then if your last name's Clinton, man, you can get like $500,000 for an hour, right?
Yeah. I couldn't imagine. I heard that the other day. I was like, what does he talk about? Anissa, you have any questions?
I have one question. I didn't know you were such a, rock guy. Would never expect you to like punk rock. Fun question. Have you ever seen Rancid?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty cool with Lars.
Yeah.
Via CM Punk.
Yeah. And another question I have
I've seen Rancid, and I've seen the Old Firm Casuals as well. I have an Old Firm Casuals t-shirt.
Nice. Another question is, when you went to Japan, did you feel like when you walked in, did you feel like, wow, I finally accomplished what I always wanted to accomplish? Did that feel good? Or like, what did you feel when you first walked in?
Good is an understatement. When I first literally went through the airport and they picked me up and brought me to the building, I remember just like you don't understand, like, since I was a child, I've always had a fascination with Japan. I think because when I was a kid, I actually read James Clavell's Shogun.
Oh yeah.
And then they turned it into a miniseries with Richard Gere. Not Richard Gere.
Richard Chamberlain.
Chamberlain, thank you, Richard Chamberlain, the king of the miniseries back in the day. And I think from that point on, like, I was done. Like, just Japan fascinated me. And then, the anime culture, the cartoons, the toys, like, all my favorite toys came from Japan. Fucking Transformers are Japanese, Fuck, Speed Racer was the first anime any of us ever saw. We didn't even know that shit was anime. It was just a cartoon.
Oh, I love that.
But Ultraman is not anime. That's a show.
Yeah, but it's still,
but again,
it's
I
Japanese.
fucking loved it. It was from Japan. Godzilla from Japan. All that shit.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, getting there and walking around and actually being in Tokyo and, you know, just it was overwhelming.
It is,
I was beside myself with how much I loved it. And
it's like you're in a different world, man. You are on. It's almost like you're on a different planet.
Is, man. It's insane. It's it's so surreal.
The buildings are different. The toilets. I mean, you ever? Hey, you know the deal about the toilets, right? Did anybody smarten you up to putting turning the folding chair on its side to sit on that when you have to use the Japanese toilet?
The entire time in Japan, I used the Japanese toilet.
Then you just squatted?
And that one time, I did.
Anyways.
I said, I'll never do that shit again because my knee was killing me.
Yeah, now you take a folding chair and you put it on its side and then you sit on the legs and then you got all that space. For it to drop from your butt. And, and you don't have to squat. Yeah.
That guy, John Anderson, strongman.
Oh,
he was
yes.
Like 300 pounds with 6% body fat.
Yes.
And, like, he ate constantly. Like, he'd come down to the buffet for breakfast and put like a dozen eggs in his pocket to take to the room, and he was always shitting. Like his body was just constantly processing food. And he went to use the Japanese toilet and missed completely. And the poor young boys had to clean that shit up.
Goldberg was on Edge and Christian's first episode of their podcast, and he said he shits like 20 times a day.
Oh, man.
Right now because he eats so much, so many times a day.
Yeah, when you're that big, having to feed all that muscle mass, your body's just, all it's doing is constantly processing food. That's all it's ever doing.
But it keeps your metabolism speedy as hell, and it keeps you lean. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm going to say this, though, man. You guys ever see that movie Lost in Translation?
Bill Murray. And,
Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, that's I was like, Black Widow? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that was one of my favorite movies before I ever got a chance to go to Japan. And after having been to Japan several times, that movie takes on brand new meaning. Especially the scenes with Bill Murray and the interpreter and shit. Like, it was hysterical. But the bar, I'm pretty sure that's the Hyatt in Shinjuku. And me and Low Key, who's a very good friend of mine, he's like a brother to me. We came up together. We were friends like all the way back. We met at a South Florida indie show, stayed in touch through the years. And we finally got to be on a Tokyo Dome, a Wrestle Kingdom show together. And we had arranged at the office to stay for a week after the Tokyo Dome. And we just went bouncing around Tokyo and just hanging out. But we went to the quote-unquote Lost in Translation bar.
Yeah.
And all the way up on the top floor, drinking 30-year-old Hibiki, toasting like, dude, we did it. We're here. We made it. And, you know, for all of the accomplishments, to be able to share that moment with one of your boys who had the same aspirations, same goals, and you can sit up there and drink $100 a glass scotch and toast and go like, fuck yeah, we're here, man.
Yeah, that doesn't suck at all.
No,
not even all,
definitely
man.
not.
Kampai.
Yeah, kampai.
Awesome.
Well, man, I'm so grateful, like I said earlier, man, that you would give us your time like this, man. And hey, so tell us how to get a hold of you, how to reach you for bookings, and tell us about the VIP lounge.
Okay, yeah, I have a podcast as well. Been doing it for a little while now with Alex Greenfield, a.k.a. Greenie. He was a former head writer for SmackDown, and it's called The VIP Lounge. You can find it on iTunes, Audio Boom, MLW.com. Every week. I like to call it the wrestling podcast for the intelligent mark, not the smart mark. Because, yeah, we talk about wrestling, and then sometimes we talk about movie and current events and movies, and, you know, it's not just strictly a wrestling podcast. I spread it around a little bit and try to cover some other interesting topics, and we're not slaves to the guest. sometimes it's just me and Alex. And then other times we do have guests. Like in the very near future, we will have the infamous X-Pac.
Yeah, you will.
I'm on Twitter at the 305 MVP. I'm on Instagram at truly_MVP. My Facebook is Montel Vontavious Porter Official or Officially MVP, something like that. It's a fan page. If you want to hear some of the tunes that X-Pac was talking about that I've done, I have a Bandcamp. It's MVP305 /bandcamp.com. Some of the songs you can download for free. Some, it might cost you $1, but go have a listen. And if you would like to book me for your wrestling event, for an appearance, motivational speaking, I am also an ordained cleric with the Church of the Latter-day Dude. I like to call myself a dudist monk, and in many states, I am actually ordained to perform weddings, and I only charge White Russians if you want to fly me out.
Nice.
You can get a hold of me at bookmvpnow@gmail.com. bookmvpnow@gmail.com for bookings. And that's about the gist of it, brother.
Very nice, man. Again, thank you so much, man. And once again, everyone, a true renaissance man in professional wrestling right here, MVP. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah,
Have an
thank you
awesome
for
day.
all your stories and all your time. We really appreciate it.
It was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for
man.
having me.
Peace. Nice.
What? Amazing.
Yeah, man, that time flew. I always say this, too, at the end of the interview when I talk to a friend of mine. Oh, my God, the time flew. I didn't even realize,
Because it's literally you just catching up with your friends.
Yeah. Has it been 2 hours, an hour and a half? What's it been?
1:45.
Wow. All right. Well, let's take a break right now, and then we'll come back and close the show.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll be right back, everyone.
Hey guys, Maria Menounos here. We want to let you know about my new show on SiriusXM Stars Channel 109. It's called Conversations with Maria, and it's live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go to conversationswithmaria.com for more info. Buzz you later.
We're back here on X-Pac 12360. That was a really in-depth interview with my man MVP.
As crazy as all our interviews are, they are always packed with so much information, and there's always still so much more that we didn't even scratch the surface on.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah,
there is a lot, and I wanted to get a lot of things. I wanted to cover a lot of ground, so I didn't get into specifics on some things like his past as far as what he did to end up in prison, because I'm pretty sure he's talked about that.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
He robbed a cruise line.
Yeah, things like that. So it's a story of redemption too.
Yeah, it really is.
Yes, because I didn't even get into the fact that he's gotten into no-gi Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yeah, and is world class at that.
I was gonna say he's probably a bad dude.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he won like the first tournament. I didn't even get a chance to ask him that.
That's the thing. He's got such a storied past in career. When he mentioned that he was writing a book, I was like, I would love to hear his life story. And then he was like, nah, it's just stories of crazy stuff that happened in prison. And even that, I'm super into it. This was an awesome show. I loved it.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you liked it, Mark.
Hey, thanks, Sean.
We can all go home happy now.
Yes, but before we do that, is there anything else you want to add, Jim?
Well,
Jimbo.
For all you wrestling fans that will be attending WrestleMania this week, there's a lot going on, but at the top of your list should be the Kliq reunion. We have the poster that Rob Schlumberger painted for this, that if you're one of the top tier members, you get this poster autographed by all the members of the Kliq.
Who painted that?
Rob Schlumberger.
Is it Schlumberger or Schamberger?
Schamberger. My bad.
Yeah, it is Jimbo. Damn it!
But this is such an amazing poster.
Isn't it?
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. It's, you know what? Try being the one that, somebody's made a painting of you like that. I mean, you see something like that, and okay, it's not just in me, but I'm in it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. So somebody took a lot of time that has a ton of talent to make something like that you're on.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. It has all of your mannerisms and everything. I could look at that and I see you coming out on Raw that night, throwing up suckets. So that should be number 1 on your list. April 1st, the Click reunion. Handle that. Also, Sunday at Access, Sean will be signing autographs from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Snickers booth. So if you want to meet Sean, tell him how much you love X-Pac 12360 and how amazing his abs are. Go there and visit him.
That's WrestleMania Day on Sunday.
WrestleMania Day at Sunday at Access. Yes.
Yes, I hope you all attend.
And future events down the line, we have the Icons of Pro Wrestling in Philly. It's a wrestling convention. Sean will be there signing autographs on April 22nd.
I think I'm there with the guys from Two Man Power Trip. Is that how you put it? Is that what it's called, Mark? It's a podcast?
I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, well, anyways, yeah, it's done. I thought I'd give them a shout out.
And APW on May 6th at the Cow Palace, and you'll actually be wrestling in a tag match.
A tag match?
I don't know, wait,
it's a rumble.
A rumble. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't be freaking false advertising me for no damn tag matches, Jimbo.
He's rebooking you.
Shit. Yeah, no, that should be great. What do we have there for the main event? Joey Ryan
versus Cody Rhodes in a cage, I believe. Yeah.
And I saw Morrison will be there. I saw him on the poster as well. It was great to see him the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he excited to see you?
I was. Well, he's just always really cool. Really laid back cat, and he's got a lot going on that we could talk about later.
Yeah, he'll be a future guest on our podcast.
Absolutely, 100%. He asked me.
Oh yeah?
Yes, and I was like, man, I would have asked you already, but I didn't want to bother you. That's how I am. And really,
you just really appreciate everyone's time.
I do, because I know how valuable it is. I know people might get sick of hearing it, but trust me, when you get older, you'll know exactly what I mean.
So is there anything you're really looking forward to this weekend at WrestleMania?
I'm just looking forward to seeing my friends. And my mom. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in a long time. And no excuse for that shit. So I asked her to come to WrestleMania.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is she going to hang out with you throughout the whole weekend?
That's right. Me, Ron Funches is coming too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so
And we'll talk about my party, or the party with Ron and I.
Yeah, when that comes.
When WrestleMania is over.
Yeah, totally.
Alrighty.
I love it. Well, this has been this episode of X-Pac 12360, episode 30 already. And next episode, we do not have a guest, but we'll be recapping all Sean's festivities from the WrestleMania weekend and the Click reunion and all of that. So definitely stay tuned for that. Anissa, where can they find you?
Well, they could find me at all social media that's out there, at Anissa Bar on Instagram and Twitter.
All right.
Very cool. All right, everyone. Well, until next week, thank you very much for joining us right here on X-Pac 12360.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Phil Svitek, Keven Undergaro, show producer Jimbo Frank, managing editor of AfterBuzz Wrestling Christy Olson, and managing producer of AfterBuzz Wrestling Mark Bidonica, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Feel free to like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube, follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac, and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!